Alright, everyone. Hello again. This is me. This is Ian. Welcome to the Hi, I'm Ian channel. And back for week 2 of the Beedrill Power Rankings. Because, Beedrill was my former home for 3 seasons. Well, it was Kakuna, but now it's Beedrill. So, yeah, I'm going to continue doing these because they're fun. And I'm sure a couple of you tune in. It's nice to know that some people care about what this one coach who can never win a playoff game can say about their teams and stuff. Plus, it's just fun to talk about stuff. Discuss the teams, discuss everything that's been going on in the season. And, well, we're only on week 2, but I think spots are slowly starting to settle in a bit. I think as we go on, obviously nothing is set in stone, but eventually, the placements are going to level out, and yeah, things will become a bit more consistent, because we do still have some good rises, some good drops, but things are slowly starting to settle into how they might be for the rest of the season. Not saying it will be, I'm just saying, and I really do hope some of these coaches can turn things around. We just need to wait and see. So, let's go on with our number 16, the Riel Magikarp and Arfermius. Now, once again, I do need to address something that happened turn 1 in the game. Arf went for Stone Edge on the incoming Electros, and he missed. Now, based on the fact that it was a defensive Electros, and later on he would have to pop the Z move anyway in order to KO it after it came in on another attack, I think if he wanted to kill the Electros here and there, he would have had to pop the Z move anyway, but I guess it did allow the Electros to get a Volt Switch off scot-free, and it forced him to do it later on in the battle, but I don't really think it mattered too much because Eel just kind of died to the Lycanroc later on. I'm not saying it didn't change the way that they played, I'm just saying that I don't know how much it would have mattered in terms of the result of the game. Because, I will admit, Lycanroc on Daniel's team, without him bringing Chestnut, which I'm not entirely sure why he didn't, maybe because it was, an easy way for him to get in Victini, and he didn't want to bait that in, because he also didn't have very many switch-ins to that. It was just weird to see him not bring the Chestnut, so Lycanroc basically had a field day with this team. But, yeah, an unfortunate Stone Edge miss did end up costing Arf and has put him currently at the lowest differential of the Beedrill, but that's not specifically why he's here, because record isn't something else. Record is only one thing to really take into account. It's a really big thing, but you also need to take into account things that happened during the match. And yes, there was some hacks on Daniel's end, getting the special attack drop that allowed him to later take a Moonblast, on the next turn actually, take a Moonblast from Mega Diancie, the dittoed Mega Diancie, and then knock him out with his own Mega Diancie. Basically, letting him keep Mega Diancie for another turn, and making him reveal Scarf to, I think he made him reveal Scarf Victini? Yeah, I believe that's what happened. Either that or he went into Lycanroc and clicked the Cell Rock. I don't remember the exact thing that happened the next turn, but either way, Diancie was easy to get revenge kill the next turn, but it did make him reveal more information about his sets. And the real problem came in the end game when it was Slowbro versus Volbeat. And Volbeat was going for Substitute. It was a sub Tailglow Baton Pass Encore set. And Arf, in the face of this... Now, granted, I don't know if he knew about Encore at this point in time. I believe Encore was revealed, but I'm not 100% sure. But I believe it was already revealed as Volbeat switched in on something. And Arf, in the face of this, went for Calm Mind. Now, this basically allowed Volbeat to click Encore, and instead of at any point trying to switch into Lycanroc to break the sub and basically make it a speed tie in order to win, to give himself a chance of winning, he just stayed in there with Slowbro and calm-minded until Gengar just came in and cleaned. It feels like Arf just kind of gave up. Like, he didn't really try at the end. He didn't try to salvage the game or make a play. He just kind of let it happen. And even if Volbeat did have an attack, like let's say theoretically Volbeat did have Bug Buzz over Baton Pass, Lycanroc can chew a +3 Bug Buzz and knock it out with 2 Stone Edges. Yes, you need to hit 2 Stone Edges, but it's still a better chance of winning than just staying in with your Calm Mind Slowbro. It's basically at that point you're just saying, oh, I guess I lose now. Oh well, whatever. It kind of just felt dispiriting and kind of disappointing at the end to see the coach just kind of give up, and that's why I had to drop him down to number 16 in my opinion. It just felt like there really wasn't much spirit at the end. And I know poor Arf has gotten haxed in both games. I say that they don't matter, but I'm sure they are tiring. I know what it's like to get haxed multiple games in a row, and yes, it does wear you down, but don't give up. Don't give up. I believe that you can turn this around. Just don't let the fact that hacks exists in the game dispirit you from actually playing your games out. Also, I hate to be this guy, you do have to run Stone Edge. I know you have to run it, but you're still running Stone Edge, and it has a reputation for being unreliable. I'm not trying to downplay what happened, I'm just saying. So, let's move on to number 15, and the Los Angeles Lookers. Now, I actually have a very similar reason for putting Jarrett down all the way down here. Now, his game was really close, but it wasn't for the best reasons. Now, one, I think Risepool just had a really good matchup against the Lookers team. He had one of the only things that can really switch into Mamoswine in Buzzwole. Unless you... I know Mamoswine's flying move is Peck, but if you're running Peck Mamoswine, you're doing it wrong. In Tornadus, he had a very good switch in Heatran, and it looked like a specially defensive Gardevoir to be able to 1v1 basically any Clefable, just Taunt, Wish, Hyper Voice, and I don't know what the last move was. It might have been Protect. It might have been Hidden Power Fire for Durant. He might have revealed it. I don't think he did, though. Greninja was a great revenge killer, outsped, I think, everything that he brought outside of a Scarfed Goodra. Mandibuzz was a good switch into the Durant. And Rotom really stopped Rotom-Mo. Not Rotom-Mo, Rotom-Fan. So he had a good pivot into everything that Jarrett had. And For the longest time, it's just Jarrett did not really have a good way to break through his team, and again, he was forced into a position. The hidden power ground Clefable was cool though. He forced himself into a position where Torn had to be his pivot, but because he didn't have any hazard removal, or he didn't prioritize hazard removal. If he did have hazard removal with his Rotom Fan, he never went for it. Since he didn't prioritize that, his Tornadus didn't really do anything, because I think it was Assault Vest again, but it was forced to take damage on switch in, and then could never get health back just because the rocks were always up. It was always getting it was only ever going to be able to get 8% back. So again, like Tornadus, which was probably, if I'm being honest, the biggest threat to Risepool's team, really just kind of went down. It wasn't really allowed to do anything again. And again, the same issue came where, Jaron made the game really close because he got a crit with his Clefable that killed off the Mega Gardevoir. And I believe the exact reaction was that really sucks from Omega Jolteon, and Jarrett was just saying it doesn't matter, I'm gonna lose anyway, it's only for differential. At that point, yes, the game didn't look winnable, but it felt from then on like he was just admitting that he wasn't really playing to win. He was just trying to preserve, if anything. And to be fair, he actually almost won. It came down to a 1% Heatran. But it only came down to that because he got a bunch of flinches and crits onto the Heatran with his Rotom-Mow, which I get. Play to win, but if that game was virtually hacksless, like, I don't want to theorem on, if that game went on naturally, then Risepool would have probably gotten a clean 5-0 out of it. So, like, no matter what, I applaud Jared for being able to bring that not that good matchup down to a 2-0, but just the feeling of, I just don't like it when it seems like coaches give up, like, in the match itself. Still recording, right? Yep. I just don't like it when coaches give up in the middle of battles. Like, it just feels like you're kind of, like, it's like you put so much effort into these teams, and the opposing coaches put so much effort into the teams. At least try to play the games out as best as you can. That's really all I have to say. Again, I hope all of these coaches can turn it around and get a couple wins. I don't want to ever see any coach in a season not ever gonna win, because that's just preference. I believe that everyone can do well. It's just, it's not a fun experience to see someone get so disheartened in the middle of a game. So anyway, we'll move on to my number 14. The Jacksonville Jellicents, who I think had the closest game this week. Like, brought it down to a 1-0 with I believe a 8% Mega Gallade. Alex actually played really well and did show that when he goes for a more balanced / bulky offensive spread of team rather than kind of a more balanced stall team, he did pretty well this week. Like, there was at one point where, Cryogonal, a Scarf Cryogonal, was in a position to win because what he had left was a Salamence, a Landorus, a Abomasnow, which was, I think, 30%, so it was going down, and a Tangrowth, and he was saved by a roll that let him live on 2%. But at that point, like, he was actually able to get really close to winning. It was a back and forth match, and he was able to take Will down to a 1-0. Like, his Abomasnow Abomasnow set of his physically offensive Abomasnow set just puts so much pressure on Will's team. Tangrowth was a nuisance because really neither Gallade nor Diggersby did anything to it. Jirachi was a nuisance. It was the one thing that really stopped Cryogonal, like, dead in its tracks. Unfortunately, he has one of the best pursuit trappers in the game in Alolan Muck, so Jirachi kind of got trapped. It happens. Cobalion put on a lot of offensive pressure as well, basically forced him to take a lot of damage on his Milotic, and forced him to sack off his Diggersby, and I think he played the game relatively well, and I think his prep for this game was really, really spot on. I don't think he had any big misplays or any bad mispreps. I think it just still comes down to the team, but I think he's playing overall well with the team, especially this week. Like, last week he got 6-0'd, but it seemed like this week he had his fighting spirit, he had his game face on, and really made this game close against a team who last week showed that they could do very well and make risky plays and have a scary, bulky offensive team itself, and he worked out pretty well with it. Props to Alex. I actually think he has a good shot at getting a couple wins in the future if he continues to play this way with his team. I was worried when I saw the team itself in the first week, but the second week it seems like he stepped up his game a bit. And I still have him at number 14 because out of the 0-2 teams, I think he's somewhere in the middle. But I believe that Alex can turn this around. So we'll move on to number 13, and the Philadelphia Scolipede, coached by Inversify. Now, why I actually moved this team down was because he probably should have lost like at least 5-0, like 5-6-0. I don't like. It's Zard X really, really should have swept. It was even confirmed after the match that Zard X at one point had set up to plus, I think, 3, and went for Dragon Claw and Seismitoad and got a crit. Though Inversify said after the match that it was still a roll in his favor. So let's say he got the roll and it didn't end up becoming a crit. Like, theoretically, Zard should have just swept from there because it could have roosted up on Celebi. It could have taken out Gliscor and still been out of range of a Bullet Punch. And if he tried to go for a Bullet Punch, he could just roost up on that. He could, he just Dragon Claw Kyurem Black, Dragon Claw Infernape. It really should have been over a lot sooner, but for some reason, Ice clicked Dragon Claw on Gliscor over going for Flare Blitz. And he did tell me his thought process. His thought process was that he was scared of the Bullet Punch revenge kill, I believe. It's just a shame that he didn't realize in game how little the Bullet Punch would have done, because he could have easily just swept, and Inverse wouldn't have had as much of a fighting chance, but Inverse was able to pull this back after Zard dented a gigantic hole in his team until eventually Alolan Ninetales came in and kind of cleaned up the rest of the game. He seems to really like Spadef Kyurem. Like, Kyurem took, like, nothing from an offensive Ninetales Moonblast. Like, It took like 40%. That was a bulky Kyurem. And, yeah. And Versify's still playing well. I just think he kind of played a bit recklessly. Let Zard get out of hand. And there was at one point in the match where Landorus came in on Infernape on I think it was revealed to be non-Scarf Infernape, because Landorus went for U-turn, and unless he was specifically making that prediction, he would have just lost his Infernape right then and there. Instead of switching into something like Seismitoad or Gliscor is one of the best checks to Landorus, probably just by being able to resist the Earthquake, especially with Scarfed Landorus, which it was, then he would have just lost his Infernape right then and there. But, hey, that's not how the match went, and he was able to pull it relatively close, down to a 2-0. And Inversify's matches have been really close, so that's why I'm going to keep him on the high part of the 0-2 teams. Man, I suck at talking. So, yeah. I think Inversify still has a really good shot at doing well in the season. He's just having a really rocky start. So, anyway, let's move on to number 12 and the Washington Clawitserds ABP. Unfortunately, taking another L. And, okay, two things. One, he should have won this match. He really should have won this match. He missed a Stone Edge on the Venusaur, which won Magic the game. Like, yeah, I believe this game ended in a 1-0 with his Venusaur being the only thing standing. And he missed a Stone Edge on the Venusaur with his Gigalith, which would have killed it, and basically taken Venusaur out of the game and not let him have a Sun Sweeper in the back. And because he had that Sun Sweeper in the back, late game he was able to win with it. But he had a Scarfed Gardevoir, which should have been able to come in at the end and just trace Chlorophyll and take out the Venusaur. But, oh wait, he didn't have Trace. Like, I get Showdown can sometimes mess up, but it's just a case of checking your mons before the match goes up. It's just a matter of checking your Pokemon one last time. I get it. Mistakes happen. It's just, this really should have been your game, man. And even after the hacks, you still should have won. The hacks wasn't really what cost you the game, I don't think. It was the fact that you didn't check your mons. I get it. I get it. These things happen. I've lost to Misty V's too. It's just, at that point, you gotta realize that that's your bad. And you're 0-2. I had to move you down because you're 0-2. And I think you can do well. Like, you still did play relatively well. You had a Kyurem that put a lot of pressure on Magic's team. Tapu Koko could have put in a lot of work, and especially with the Vullaby, which was actually kind of a really nice check to Doublade, to Scavalier, even Latias, kinda. He didn't have a bad prep, and he didn't play a bad match. It just came down to just check your mons for future weeks. That's it. All right, so let's move on to number 11 and the Arizona Zygardenals, coached by Dougal. And This week he got mowed down by Genius. Now, it wasn't necessarily as straightforward as just he got mowed down, but he did, in fact, get mowed down pretty hard. Like, I think Genius did have a relatively good matchup because Dougal's only fire switch-in was Volcanion. And Volcanion went down really early, and Dougal has a semi-fire spam team in Blacephalon, Torkoal, and Weatherball Victory Bell. So you could just tell that Victory Bell had such a solid matchup versus Dougal, and Genius really took advantage of that. He led Mega Glalie, which had no switch-ins except for, a Volcanion that 4 times resist ice. I get it, you need that check in the back, but even if it has Earthquake, that's not knocking out Volcanion, and you get a Fire Blast off, which Genius doesn't really have a switch-in to Fire Blast. And Or you could have went for Bug Buzz and then went Skarmory. Or you could have actually set up webs with your lead Galvantula instead of just letting your Galvantula die in 2 turns for a little bit of Bug Buzz chip on a Mega Glalie, which never hit the field again in the game. Like, I believe Skarmory should have always been switched in on the 2nd turn, because Galvantula still could have been pretty helpful in the match just to get up webs later. I get that he has a good hazard remover in Torkoal, but you had a spin blocker, and he could have potentially been running Defog Mew, but and that's the thing, he didn't really have too many ways to pressure Mew after Galvantula went down. Like, once Galvantula went down, he couldn't really kill Mew. It's a team that had a very impressive performance last week that I only really held down because of its team getting crushed because he just couldn't really deal with Geniuses. And Genius played really well and preserved his win cons to the late game. And at the end of the day, he just got mowed over. Also, I felt really sad when Mimikyu with a Shadow Claw on Torkoal and did 17%. I felt really sad. Like, I would personally never draft Mimikyu. I'm not good with setup sweepers, especially ones that, like, start out hitting very weakly. Like, Mimikyu is just not a powerhouse. It just doesn't hit hard enough. It's like, it just really didn't have a way to win. And we'll continue to talk about this matchup with my next entry, actually, which is before I end with Dougal, just he did make some transactions to his team, which will come into effect week 4, I believe. So maybe that'll help round out any issues that he does have with his team, because I still think his team does have quite a few weaknesses, and it's still why he's kind of held back to number 11, despite the fact that he doesn't have a horrible record. But it's hard to imagine him going too far with this team in the current state that it's in, but I believe Dougal can pull this back in future weeks. He just needs to concentrate and stuff. So anyway, we'll move on to number 10, which is actually Genius of the San Francisco Star Raptors, who got a major bump this week with, I think, one of the most impressive performances we've seen. Just having a perfect switch in to everything that Dougal could have thrown at him, and wrapping up this game. Now, there was an unfortunate Fire Blast miss on the Dragonite switch in, which allowed Genius to live a flame charge into a hidden power ice from Volcanion, but I believe that he had a he had a Sunsetter. He could have switched in Torkoal to take any hit and then got in Victory Bell, which at that point just got a kill. And I believe he had either Scarf Crocodile or Mew could have taken a hit. I don't think at the end of the day that the Fire Blast miss mattered too much. It just might have made the differential a little bit cleaner. But yeah, he just kind of mowed through him. Mew was a great Mega Lopunny check. Even though he got the Toxic off on Mew, it didn't really matter because Mew was only really in to check Lopunny and then leave. And Torkoal stopped Mimikyu. He took out Galvantula turn 1. Zygarde didn't get a chance to do anything. Just kind of died to a Solar Beam. And the Protect Victory Bell set. The Protect Victory Bell set was actually really clean. Protect Victory Bell to stop Fake Out from Lopunny, because at that point he realized he was going to lose a turn of Sun anyway if Lopunny was going for Fake Out. I might as well not take damage. Because at the end of the day, if Lopunny was able to get enough Fake Outs... Whoa, what the hell did I do with the zoom? Okay, well, I guess we're looking like this now. It really just did come down to Genius just had a really good team made for this week. It's amazing to me how much of a change I saw from I'm not saying Genius didn't play well last week. It's from not believing he had a chance with the team to saying he actually can make this work. I still don't believe the team is its best. Even in the top half of the teams, I still think the team isn't very good. But if Genius continues to play the way he does, the team won't matter as much. It just really comes down to, I think his performance was incredibly impressive this week. Continue to impress. Okay, we're going to move on to number 9. Oh, so it's just... it reset itself. Cool. We're still recording, right? Okay, yeah. Because I still got to check, because my computer just kind of decided to die. One day, it just keeled over from viruses. I don't know. It wasn't actually a virus. It's just old. It's just an old computer. It takes 10 minutes to fucking start up the internet. And it's not even... I don't know what happened to me. It was loaned to me. It was loaned to me by a friend, and it's just not. It's not that it doesn't work. It's just running really slowly. I am thankful for the gift, though. I am able to do certain things with the computer that I'm not able to do with my iPad. It's just recording isn't one of them. So anyway, we'll move on to number 9, which is the Barcelona Bagons, coached by Ice, and he got a win this week. And he really, I would have moved him up maybe more, but he really should have won 5-6-0, depending on how many Pokemon were left when he set up. Oh my god, sorry. He really should have won, a lot earlier in this game, but he didn't. He showed the scariness of the Aurora Veil offense route. It's just, he wasn't able to sweep, which was unfortunate. But yeah, other than that, I think Ice played a really good game. I think setting up for the Alola... Because Alola Ninetales, after the holes were put through his team, just kind of won. I mean, granted, Ninetales could have been knocked out by Scizor going for Bullet Punch in the late game, but I think it was weakened to the point where Landorus could have came in and just EQ swept anyway. Or he could have stalled it out with Scalds and from Suicune, because I believe it was a sub-protect toxic Scald set. And that was really good versus in-versus team. His only real way to stop that was Celebi. And even Celebi would have gotten worn down over time. And because he had a bulky Kyurem, Suicune was able to outspeed that and just toxic stall it. I think Ice showed a very good improvement over last week. I think he played better. I think he prepped better. I just think he should have won a lot earlier, and a misplay in the match really cost that. But hey, what can you do? What can you do? Them's the breaks. I'm still gonna move him up for plus two spots for winning. Yeah. So anyway, number 8 is the Oakland Rose Raiders, coached by L5. And don't worry, I'm not judging you for not giving me your logo. I'm not judging you at all. Not at all. But I don't know how to feel about this game. I think Omega Jolteon played really well. I think it was just a game where it felt like L5 was getting, like, it felt like the game for like the first 12 turns was just being put on a spin cycle. Like, it'd be Finny versus Pillow. The first turn, Finny going for knockoff really set L5 back because Piloswine was really essential this game. It could have stopped. It stopped Mega Arrow. It stopped Garchomp. It could have hindered the usage of Sneasel. If it had any rock coverage, it could have stopped Volcarona. That's really what it came down to. But losing its Eviolite very early on meant the Pillow was not really much of an answer for those things anymore. And it really just kind of went back and forth. Like, L5 got a Brox turn 1, Finny went for Defog, and then L5 would go into his Scarf Mag. Jolteon would go into his Garchomp, and then L5 would go into his Klefki, which was Air Balloon, and then just rinse and repeat. And rinse and repeat. Omega would go back into his Finny, and then Magnezone would come back in, Garchomp would come back in. And I get what L5 was trying to do. He was trying to predict Volk to come in, because Volk was a dangerous threat to his team, especially after Piloswine lost its Eviolite. But at the end of the day, like, it just came down to he lost like multiple 50-50s of trying to predict that Volk to come in, and it never did. He just went Garchomp every single time. And eventually the Klefki that was supposed to be a counter switch into Garchomp, like, had rock set up on it, got rock tombed and had his Air Balloon broke, and then got 1v1'd by Garchomp anyway. Like, it was able to neuter Garchomp by getting a play rough off. So in that aspect, it was a soft check to Garchomp and did wear it down. But it unfortunately probably wasn't as useful as L5 assumed it was going to be. Then again, Mega Pinsir are such a huge threat. Rock Tomb was probably something that was expected on Garchomp. Also, unfortunately, he lost one of the biggest offensive threats to Omega's team, like, very early in the game, like, in terms of, like, Mons left on his team. It was 6-5 Omega Jolteon, and Pinsir was in versus Dhelmise. He went for return. The Cobra Berry popped on Dhelmise. It lived and rock slided and O-code the Mega Pinsir. So that was an unfortunate circumstance for our buddy L5. It just really came down to it felt like he was getting outplayed. It's like, it came down to, it felt like L5 was getting outplayed and, like, was losing a lot of 50-50s and was worn down over time to the point where Mega Arrow kind of just came in and cleaned. Now, granted, if L5 played for the choke and went for 1,000 arrows instead of extreme speed on the Mega Arrow, on the Aerodactyl switch-in, which was what Jolteon did, and I personally believe that was a choke, he could have pulled out the victory. It just really came down to Omega made the really risky play of going Arrow on the extreme speed, and if he got that play wrong, he lost. He could have lost, but he didn't. It was a weird game. I think Jolt played well. I think L5 didn't play badly. It just he got some calls wrong, and I think he'll bounce back next week. It's just this was an unfortunate game. Anyway, we'll move on to number 7 and the Anaheim Alterias, and Ace didn't play badly. There were just some very questionable things. Like, turn 1, it was Emboar versus Rotom Heat. He goes for Superpower on the Rotom Heat, takes it down very low, like 70, like down to like 25%. And then the next turn he goes for Flare Blitz. Like, if you look at if you look at Sloppy Joe's team, you see that he doesn't really have a good switch into Emboar anyway. Like, he went for Flare Blitz, like maybe trying to catch Celesteela? I'm not sure why he went for Flare Blitz when Superpower again probably would have knocked out the Rotom Heat. And you could have saved it for later to try to get a big hit off on something like Celesteela or Tyranitar if it was bulky. Or a bulky Primarina. Like you could have at least attempted to get Emboar in later. Or save it for a sack. But I just don't know why he made the Flare Blitz into Sucker Punch play. Because not only did that not kill Rotom, it let him save it for later. There was just he lost his Emboar early. Manaphy's effect on the game was very mitigated. I will admit, there was this moment that I laughed in the game where Manaphy was in versus Primarina, and they just both went for Energy Ball and exchanged Rindo Berries. That was funny. Like you thought the Primarina was gonna die. Psych, Rindo Berry. You thought the Manaphy was gonna take a lot of damage. Psych, Rindo Berry. It was just really funny to me. I really enjoyed that. And Manaphy as a threat was mitigated by Serperior, which after Emboar went down and on a later prediction, Crobat would get paralyzed by a Glare, Ace, it was kind of set up for an end game where Ace was going to get rocked by Serperior. It was just kind of something that was going to happen, unfortunately. It just came down to the end game. Like, once Crobat Crobat was weakened. And at one point, he even kind of just tossed in Crobat because he didn't have a good switch into... Was it Garchomp? Yeah, I think it was. Because he took a Dragon Claw to the face and then U-turned out. And that basically just killed off the Crobat. Once Crobat was weakened and parried, it's just... He had nothing to really stop Serperior. He kind of had to hope for a miss to get brought back into the game, and he didn't get it. So Ace just kind of got rocked by Serperior. It happens, and it kind of showed why Serperior is such a threatening mon in the format. I think Ace will bounce back. It's just... This was a very unfortunate game. I know I say that a lot, but it really was. Serp just kinda grabbed him with his gigantic tail and squeezed the life out of him over time, leading to another very good win on Zhou Weiao's part. I'm gonna need to be told the proper way to pronounce his name. I'm starting to feel really horrible about it. So anyway, number 6, the Chicago Caracass is coached by Jolteon. Oh gosh, I should call him Omega. If I keep calling him Jolteon, people... I feel like I'm talking about Jolt from the Token Minorities, and he's not associating with us. Or is he? I don't know. Find out next time on Power Ranking Z. Gosh, that's an old meme. Why did I go for that? Why is that my joke? This is why I can't do solo comms. I'm not funny. I'm really not that funny. Why are you watching this? Who are you? Anyway, I think Omega prepped very well for this match. Like I mentioned earlier, Cobra Berry Delmise, a great lure for the Mega Pinsir. The knockoff Tapu Fini would knock off the Choice Scarf on Magnezone and would knock off the Eviolite on Piloswine. Two things that really helped out his team. Like, if you look at his team, he doesn't have the best switch into Magnezone, and he didn't really have a super effective way of dealing with Piloswine. But with the Eviolite knocked off and the Choice Scarf gone, those threats were immediately mitigated. Yeah. Sneasel, a gigantic threat to L5's team. Volcarona also put massive dents into the team. Was Shattered Psyche for Toxapex? Yeah, was Shattered Psyche for Toxapex, but Toxapex didn't come, so he could kind of just afford to pop the Z move on Zygarde and get a lot of damage off. And in the end, Zygarde just... Not Zygarde, Volcarona... Garchomp and Volcarona and Sneasel, like those three, including a surprise kill from Delmise, just kind of slowly wore down L5's team for, in the end, Arrow to clean up. Again, I think it was a choke going Arrow instead of... what did he have left? He could have potentially sacked off the... I believe he could have just sacked off Volcarona, and I don't think things would have changed that much. Because at that point, either everything could live a hit, or was faster than Volcarona, or in Zygarde's case, could just get a Banded Extreme Speed off and kill it later anyway. So I'm not sure why he needed to save it, when he could have just safely went Mega Arrow the next turn. I get preserving differential is really important. It's just, I don't know if I would preserve it over, like, I don't know if I would preserve it over your win con. But he made the play. It was risky, but it worked out, and he won 3-0 over a very solid team. And he prepped very solidly and played just as well as he did last week. This time, there wasn't any unfortunate hacks really on either side. It was a clean game, and Omega showed how good he can be when he can play to his utmost potential. So yeah, I think he deserves to be number 6. And we'll move on to number 5. The beginning of the 2-0 teams, the New England Pidgeots, coached by Will the Most. And I gotta admit, I was relatively shocked at how this game progressed. Alex put on an amazing show versus a guy who, like, I had ranked relatively low, but like at number 9 for a team that won their last game, but I still wasn't completely convinced on the team. And to be fair, I'm really still not. But I think Will, as a battler, is holding his team up. Like, he may be the lowest rank of the 2-0 teams, but I still think he's gonna make playoffs. I'm only putting him at number 5 because I believe he has the not only the worst differential out of the 2 2-0 teams, but his 2 matches have been the closest of the 2-0 teams, like by a pretty significant margins. Both of his wins have been 1-0 that were very close, like down to like a very low percentage Pokemon in the end game. It's like both of his wins, I'm not saying they felt questionable, it just felt like at the end, like either team could have came out on top, and Will just happened to get the advantage. But that's not saying he didn't prep well. No, he prepped well. Diggersby didn't really get O-code by anything outside of his grass types and could have put a massive hole in the team. Oh, and Cobalion, of course, but you know, if it was like Choice Scarfed, which it honestly might have been, I don't know. But I think if it was Choice Scarfed, it could have just dented the team. If he was running double Scarfers, oh my. Mega Gallade put in some good work. It actually won him the game by living a Scarfed Earthquake in the end game. Choice Specs Whimsicott. Unfortunately, it got knocked off, but it still like pressured quite a bit. And it punched like some holes in the team and let him realize that Landorus was Scarfed so he can mitigate that threat later. Flamor Milotic, doing bulky Milotic things, checking Salamence, checking Cobalion. And, you know, I did say there wasn't anything questionable, but it's a Scald Burn. It's a Scald Burn. He got a Scald Burn on Cobalion immediately, which forced Alex to go for multiple Swords dances. It's Scald. Like, I'm not going to judge him too harshly on it. It's Scald. It's unfortunate that he got it literally the first Scald he went for, but it's Scald. You run it 4 burns. And he happened to get the 30% chance. It was around a third percentage chance of him getting the burn, and he got it. There's not really too much to say on that. He just kind of did. And Scarf Cryogonal, like, once the 2 Steel types were gone, Scarf Cryogonal was set to win in the end game. It didn't end up doing that because of a low roll on Tangrowth, but it still could have won in the end game. And I think Will did still play the game well. Like I said, he's only the lowest of the 2-0 teams because his differential is the lowest and his games have been the closest. But I still think he's doing incredibly well this season, and I think he will continue to do well if he continues to keep on the winning track. And if he keeps winning, he's going to move up even farther. So let's move on to our number 4 team, the FC Poplio, coached by Magic. And why I moved him down, it really comes down to one reason. He shouldn't have won. He did, and I think overall, like, his performance from last week where he got a 6-0 does save him. Was it him that got a 6-0? I think it was him that got a 6. No. Was it? No, it was him that beat, no, he beat Genius. It was L5 that got the 6-0. I think that he really should have lost this game. Like, why he's above Will is because of his performance last week, that he did do very well. But this week, I'm going to say he got bailed out. He got bailed out by the fact that APB's Gardevoir was the wrong ability and that he missed the Stone Edge. If we're looking at the actual events of this game, he played to the best of his abilities in the end game, but Kyurem put such a hole in his team by just clicking Ice Beam that in the end game, like, it really did come down to him just see. I don't know if he even saw that Gardevoir wasn't Trace, but his way of winning was to, and Gardevoir was confirmed Scarf, by the way, but it really came down to, like, Gardevoir not being Trace and him missing a Stone Edge. If he hit that Stone Edge, Magic would have lost. And again, like I said with Arf earlier, it's Stone Edge. It's not something you can constantly rely on. But whereas with Arf, it didn't seem like the Stone Edge miss had too much of an effect on the game. This one, Venusaur was the last Pokemon remaining. When Venusaur was in against Gigalith, ABP called the play, either knowing he could live it or believing he would overpredict, and went for Stone Edge, and he missed. He made the play and didn't get rewarded for it. And basically, APB making the play led to Magic winning, which was a very unfortunate circumstance for APB and a very fortunate one for Magic. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be in the top, to be 2-0. I'm just saying he should count his blessings for this week. And he hasn't necessarily been playing bad. He hasn't been playing bad. He's been playing good. He's been playing well. And his team has been holding up. It's just, I would like to see next week him not needing to rely on luck to win, basically. That's what it comes down to in the end. I just hope that next week the game is a bit cleaner. So anyway, let's move on to number 3 in the Toronto Weezings. Another game where you could say Daniel maybe should have lost, because if we're theory modding, if Arf went into Lycanroc on any of the Volbeat turns, he did win the speed tie that broke Gengar's sub. And if he won that speed tie without Gengar having a sub by going in on Volbeat, he would have lost. He would have lost, but that's not what happened. I think Daniel played relatively well for a not that good matchup. When you look at team preview, Victini and Lycanroc put a hole in his team. Umbreon can be a nuisance to things like Gengar. Ditto stops him from setting up with anything like a Calm Mind or a Rock Polish Diancie, because he could just end up getting reverse swept by it. It really came down to, I think Daniel just did well to mitigate the threats that cut off his team. The Stone Edge miss in the early game was unfortunate, but it didn't really seem to affect the game to a crucial level where it downplays how well Daniel played. Using Entei as his only switch into Victini, it worked. Victini was mitigated and was allowed to, and got revenge killed by Weavile in the end game. And while I also believe Arf choked by sacking off his Victini, because he could have used that to revenge kill Gengar, Volbeat, and Weavile if he didn't go for. If he wasn't going for Bolt Strike, if he was literally going for V-Crate and U-Turn, I think U-Turn knocked him out. He could have won, but I get it. Weavile is a really good Pursuit Trapper, it's kind of what it does, and it stopped it. It stopped Victini from being a threat. Also, sub-focus punch Weavile for Ferrothorn. That was really funny. Sub-focus punch Weavile for Ferrothorn and to just obliterate Lycanroc. That was really funny. I really liked that set. And, you know, the Tail Glow Baton Pass into Gengar, which outsped everything except for Scarf Victini and Lycanroc. Well, it outsped Victini, it's just it was Scarfed. And Speed Ties with Lycanroc in the end game could have won. Also, if the set was Sunny Day, Fire Blast / Flamethrower, Flame Charge, and Solar Beam, like I believe it was in the Entei, Tail Glowing into that also could have won him the game. Because, you think about it, other Ditto can't really touch that Entei, especially if it's behind a sub. He could get that in on something like Ferrothorn. And unfortunately for Arf, it's also a common problem. I see that it seems that like every time, at least this season, that he's brought Ferrothorn, it's been taken advantage of. I know in the first game it was frozen, but if it wasn't frozen, it still would have just been a liability in the end game. That's at least how I see it. And Daniel was able to do the same. I think he played well, and I think he deserves to be number 3. So let's move on to number 2, the Rhine Valley Guardians, coached by Risepool. And yeah, I said most of what I said earlier for Jarrett. I think Risepool just had a really solid matchup and played to that. I think it was only made close because of hacks. He mitigated Tornadus, he stopped Clefable, he had a perfect switch into Mamoswine, he had a switch into the Rotom in his own Rotom. Greninja never even hit the field, but still could have gotten massive damage off in his entire team. And Mandibuzz was annoying for his Durant. He had a perfect team for Jarrett's. It's just, he lost his Mega Gardevoir to a crit. He got flinched down by Rotom Fan in the end game. And it wasn't hacks, but he did mispredict what the Goodra set was, and when it was a Scarfed Goodra and just destroyed Greninja with a Scarf Power Whip, it really put him in the back, which wouldn't have happened if he still had his Gardevoir around. So, this was a 2-0 victory, but it really should have been a lot higher of a differential, and I think he just really managed this game very well. He managed this game very well versus Jarrett, and I want to see him continue to do this. I think next week he plays Alex. Unfortunately, at least for him, I do need to take into account that he's played the 16th, 15th, and now next week he'll be playing the 14th ranked teams in the power rankings, so we'll see if he stays. But still, he's been doing such impressive performances that it'd be hard not to put him at number 2, you know? Even if he is playing technically the lower ranked teams, that doesn't discredit how he's been playing. So, move on to our number 1, which of course is our good buddy, Luau. The Blackburn Snowverst, coached by our buddy J to the Ow. Yeah, there's not too much to say on this game. He just played it very well. He mitigated Emboar, granted due to a misplay, but stopped Emboar from being a big threat to his team, used Primarina to stop Manaphy from being a big threat to his team. All the while, I think he knew that Serperior in the end was just going to tear through his team as long as he could get the para on it. As long as he could get the para on Crobat. And once he did, he got the para on Crobat, he got Rocks up, and I also like how he has Mega Garchomp, but I don't think he's ever Mega Evolved with it. Like, he just kind of takes advantage of the fact that he can have either or and just keeps it as regular Garchomp, just keep the speed boost. It's a really effective way to use Garchomp, and I've seen people do this in the past, like TC did back when he was in Kakuna. Wait, was that TC? No, TC. I'm talking about TC in a different league. I was in him within a league called the NBA, and he did that with his Mega Garchomp. Just taking advantage of the not needing to Mega Evolve first turn rule, and allowing himself to keep a Garchomp, basically, which even without an item is still one of the better Pokemon in Draft, just because of how much versatility it has and its great speed tier, and its dual typing having no switch-ins. Well, no to very little switch-ins. And, yeah, it really came down. Also, before I forget, Metal Sound Celesteela. Having that in the back to stop any variant of Calm Mind Gothitelle or Calm Mind Manaphy. That was perfect. I need to do this. Very well done, Zhao. Very well done. So in my mind, you still... Oh, do I not have your record? Wait, hang on, let's fix that. I believe you are 2-0 plus 7. Why was your record not there? I'm fixing that right now. Okay, there you are, 2-0 plus 7. My bad. There you go. So anyway, that is the Week 2 Power Rankings brought to you by Ian, the Kakuna coach that has never gotten past the quarterfinals. That is me signing off. Until next time.